So going into this, obviously, I'm not going to warm you with some incredibly detailed introduction to J-Hope. Everyone knows who J-Hope is. He's a rapper and main dancer from BTS. He had a large background in dance, got into the idol industry, found himself in a mega successful K-pop group being BTS. I'm sure 99% of the people watching this probably already know that. Instead of doing this really lengthy retrospective on his music, I wanted to just simply break down my thoughts on his artistry. When it comes to BTS, they are filled with musical talent, and it's one of the big reasons why I like the group. I like their individual music, I like what they've contributed to K-pop, but what I really like about BTS is the fact that they're made out of 7 idols who have incredible musical talent, whether it be singing, music production, writing. Now, the 3 idols in this group that have done arguably the most so far have been J-Hope, RM, and Suga. Jimin has a release upcoming quite soon as I'm recording this. The vocalists in the group have done some OST work here and there and done some solo work with some other stuff, but they haven't really been as true of solo artists as the main rappers have been. And while I would love to talk and could in the future talk about those other 2 rappers being Suga and RM, I do want to talk about J-Hope today because I feel like his craft is so cool to me. J-Hope to me is a musical prodigy, and I don't say that lightly. Like that's a high term. And I think the best way to frame this is to take it step by step and look at some of his works, and I'll give you my thoughts and opinions on them. And I want to start that by talking by some of the individual works that he's worked on in BTS. So J-Hope has worked on a few individual songs, most popularly being Outro Ego. He did Boy Meets Evil, and he also did Just Dance. Just Dance is a really cool one to me because I think it really reflects J-Hope as a member of BTS, right? Because J-Hope has this different external persona when he's in BTS. He's this very bubbly, upbeat individual, very energetic, and a lot of his music in BTS reflects that nature, right? Like Just Dance and Outro Ego, especially Just Dance, very dance pop inspired. One of my more favorite songs that he has performed solo, mainly because of the reflection throughout his career that it represents. I remember watching, someone put together an edit of J-Hope at the beginning of BTS's career when, they were still very small. He got no messages in his inbox from fans because they had such little fans back then. And then it cut to him performing this song in a stadium with thousands of people chanting his name. It was a very, chilling experience to watch. It really does hit you in your heartstrings a little bit.
I was born louder. Thank you, Emily.
Then there's also Outro Ego, which is at the end of Map of the Soul 7, and this one takes a more intrapersonal take into a lot of J-Hope and his personality, and I think Outro Ego is the first time we really start to see a little bit of the real J-Hope underneath this persona that has been given to us over the years. I do want to take a quick pit stop over to his first project that he put out, which was his mixtape Hope World back in 2018, and I love this so much. 내 성격은 half and half no 공인으로서의 노력하는 life no 큰 욕구는 자제하는 중후 no 늘 공상에 차오르는 숨후 no 편히 울고 싶은 그 I know 미친 듯 놀고 싶은 그 I know 사랑에 설레고 싶은 그 I know yeah I know J-Hope ended up producing and working on a few of these songs, including Baseline, Airplane, and Piece of Peace. And you will instantly recognize that a lot of the musical inspirations for especially this mixtape and some of his earlier work has a very hard 90s hip-hop influence. And what I love about this mixtape is the way that jhope presents himself on this mixtape. We see a little bit more of an authentic approach to him, a little bit more down-to-earth lyrics on Airplane and such, but the way that he's able to present himself as a rapper and as a vocalist, I love the way that he's able to switch up the tone of his voice, the inflections he uses. It's what really makes him a special artist. Like jhope can go from this very high-pitched rap section and then kind of lower his voice throughout this pre-chorus, especially it happens a lot in bassline. He's really a dynamic singer because I don't even think he's really just constrained to being a rapper. I don't think he's really a vocalist by any means, but his voice is not bad, and I think later when we get to Jack in the Box, you can see that it does develop. But jhope is really able to tell the story by the way he presents a lot of his vocals on this mixtape. But a lot of this mixtape really screams upbeat, fun colors, a lot of energy. This is still very much the jhope from BTS that we know, even if there are some deeper topics that he does explore from time to time. I also really love the album art for this as well. It really reflects jhope as a character and a lot of the visuals that this album is trying to give off. If it's one thing that jhope is able to display through his various works, it's personality. That's what really makes him a very special artist, is that he really communicates his personality through his music. His music itself has a lot of personality to it. You know, when I sit down and listen to a K-pop album any given week, a lot of K-pop albums nowadays don't have a lot of personality or soul to them. They're kind of just a bunch of tracks thrown together, whether they're written by the artist or they're not, and they tend to bore me. There's very few albums that I listen to in K-pop nowadays that really grasp my attention, and jhope, going back and listening to his stuff, is really fun because you can just feel jhope as an artist on every single track. And going back and looking at some interviews at the time, I remember seeing that RM said that he was actually very impressed by the quality of this mixtape when jhope brought it up to the other members that he was going to be releasing it. And he also didn't really promote this at all. There wasn't really any physical sales. This album was mainly digital stuff. And I think he did like one interview with Time Magazine for it, and that was basically it. And that's because 2018 for BTS was very busy. I mean, they had Fake Love, they had Idol, they were promoting in the United States. That was a big year for BTS as a group. I don't blame jhope for not promoting this or even really wanting to promote this. A year later, in 2019, jhope would drop Chicken Noodle Soup, which was his first big collaboration with another artist, that being Latino pop singer Becky G. Now, a lot of people over in the West do know Becky G. She's featured on some prominent tracks, has a big catalog of her own. She's also Kiana, I believe, in True Damage, if anyone cares. Now, avid hip-hop fans in the West would recognize that Chicken Noodle Soup heavily samples DJ Webster and Young B's song of the same name, which is a classic.
Chicken noodle soup with a soda on the side. Yeah. Chicken noodle soup. Yeah. Chicken noodle soup. Yeah. Chicken noodle soup with a soda on the side.
Chicken Noodle Soup is even more of this old school dance hip hop that we kind of got some shades of in his mixtape. This music video, again, has a lot of bright, fun colors to it. It's very fun. The dance is very catchy. The chorus is very catchy. I think Becky G adds a really great vocal element and also a really awesome rap section, which adds a almost trilingual element to the song. We get English, Korean, and Spanish. I think Chicken Noodle Soup is the first real song by jhope that really put him out into that sphere. The mixtape was so confined to 2018 at the time that I do believe there are some people that forgot about it. So to partner with a very large, prominent artist in the West was a huge thing for him, and they would go on to perform it at Lollapalooza recently. And I think jhope and his members kind of did a remix version with his members during, I think, the Soloist, I believe, that performance. Now, between this 2019 period and 2022, we didn't really get a ton of music from him, him mainly because of things like COVID really hitting in 2020 and 2021 and BTS blowing up even more in the West. But in 2022, we would get my favorite project from him, which is Jack in the Box, which was my album of the year in 2022. Now, to a lot of people, Jack in the Box, more Arson, big surprise to a lot of people. People were like, oh my gosh, this is like not J-Hope that we have come to know. But for me personally, looking at him as an artist and some of the little details he sprinkled in throughout the years, I knew there was something else behind the scenes. And I'm not even trying to put retrospective bias into that. I actually genuinely thought going into this release, I was like, this is going to be a more authentic J-Hope, just like how I think we're going to get a more authentic Jimin when he drops his solo stuff. Problem is, when you're part of the biggest boy band in the world, you're confined to some things in the persona that you set for yourself in that group. Not saying that the persona that J-Hope has presented as himself as in BTS is something that he isn't a part of naturally. I do believe a lot of his persona in BTS is the real J-Hope, but I do believe there was more layers behind that outward appearance that everyone knows him for that we just didn't know about. We have More, which is a grunge rock song with hip-hop elements and an incredibly dark aesthetic, and Arson, which is just this raw hip-hop trap track, and I love it. Now you might be saying, Taeju, why was this your album of the year 2022? Simple, it's just really well made. Like, out of all the albums I listened to, there were some great ones like Taeyeon's I Envy You, but this is just so quality. Every bit of this has his fingerprints on it. Even though he didn't really participate in a lot of the production with a lot of these songs I was surprised about, he wrote every single one of these songs except for the intro and the interlude. But every single song feels like its own standalone thing. And again, it has an intro and an interlude, something that I like very much. The legend of Pandora's box is that Prometheus stole fire from heaven, and Zeus, the king of gods, took vengeance by presenting Pandora to Prometheus's brother Epimetheus. I think I actually said that correctly. I may not have, but I think I'm a little proud of myself right now. I think I pronounced that correctly. Pandora then opened a jar left in her care containing sickness, death, and many other unspecified evils, which were then released into the world. And as she tried to quickly close the jar, she realized that one thing was left behind, that being hope. While Jack in the Box definitely translates these inspirations, I also think Jack in the Box is simply just a reflection of what J-Hope is on the inside as an artist. We are seeing the real J-Hope for the first time on this record. And you have J-Hope talking about deeper topics such as his security as an idol, self-doubt, his future and past as an artist. And the production on these songs is so nice. I love the opening song, Pandora's Box. That is fantastic. The drop in that song just goes stupid every time.
J to the hole, Joe to the 해망, Jack in the box. Pandora's horn, 하나 남은 희망, Jack in the box. J to the hole, Joe to the 희망, Jack in the box. Pandora's horn, 하나 남은 희망, Jack in the box.
But the one thing that sticks out to me when it comes to J-Hope, not with just this record and Hope World and Chicken Noodle Soup, but it's also when he performs his music. He's so passionate about what he does.
Bring it out. Let it rain on me. I clear it out. Let's get it, 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 let's get it. 모든 세상을 누구보다 열심히 했기에 때문에 떨자고들 해서 낼게 너의 영화 같은 인생의 main race. 정신 못 차린 얘들 다 play what?
Seriously, just pull up the clips of him performing different songs, whether it be the recent MAMA 2022 awards where he performed more in Arson for the first time really in front of a lot of people. He performed before at Lollapalooza and stuff, but I think it was the first like Korean performance that he did for those songs. Some of his Just Dance performances and his Lollapalooza performance, which he put so much effort into, especially after watching that behind the scenes documentary. Seeing all the work he put in throughout the way with Jack in the Box and Lollapalooza becoming the first South Korean headlining act at Lollapalooza and giving off such a fantastic performance on top of that is just so groundbreaking really for K-pop. I plan on going to Lollapalooza this year, and I guarantee that we will probably see some more K-pop artists go because of how successful TXT and jhope were at this recent performance. Now, of course, I have to talk about On the Street with J. Cole. The awesome thing about On the Street with J. Cole is that J-Hope has talked about in the past about how J. Cole is one of the first artists that he ever listened to when getting into music, and he really does like look up to him. And I almost think that he may take inspirations from him musically, because a lot of his earlier works like On Hope World, Chicken Noodle Soup, even some elements in Jack in the Box actually take some inspiration from what I believe J. Cole's music sounds like. I'm a big J. Cole fan. I've been listening to him my entire childhood up until now. And I will tell you that Hope World, when it came to Baseline and Daydream and Airplane, definitely has some shades of J. Cole on there. I can feel it. Him and J. Cole met up at Lollapalooza and got to share a moment with each other, and that was really cool. But I didn't expect a collaboration to even really come from it or come so soon. And I will tell you right now, On the Street is one of my favorite releases by an artist recently, like probably this year. It is really fantastic. It doesn't take too many leaps and bounds like I thought it could have. It does play it pretty safe, but I love how J-Hope gives J. Cole an extended verse or section. He really gives J. Cole like over a minute and a half just to himself because he does look up to him. Why would he want to overshadow J. Cole on the song? In fact, J-Hope is really relegated to just singing a lot of the chorus, and he had a tiny little rap section at the beginning, which was also very good. I think it is a fantastic collaboration, which really helps his career a lot, because not only is he now partnered with, you know, the likes of Becky G, now he's also done a collaboration with J. Cole. Like, he's really making a name for himself in the soloist industry, both over in South Korea, but primarily in the West. A lot of people know about him over here. J-Hope is still a relatively new soloist. He only has one full album to his name, and now with him going into the military, we aren't going to see a whole lot of releases from him anytime soon. But I do think J-Hope has a budding solo career under his belt. He is incredibly talented when it comes to a production standpoint, from a writing standpoint. You can just tell he loves what he does. He loves the music that he makes. I absolutely love watching him perform live because of the effort that he puts into his performances. J-Hope really did take a risk by coming out and saying, hey, you know, like the persona that I've put on in front of everyone for however many years, that is part of me, but that's not really who I truly am, and drop an album literally dedicated to explaining who he truly is. That's like a really big risk because he is one of the faces of the biggest boy group in the world. I really love the 90s hip-hop influence that he imbues in a lot of his music. It really gives his music personality that hits home to me, because that's the type of stuff I listened to growing up, and I just really love the marriage between Western sounds and traditional K-pop sounds that he tends to go with. I don't believe J-Hope is going to be a good soloist. I think he's going to be a fantastic soloist down the line. We already have seen some of the stuff he's put out, but I'm saying like he has the ceiling of like a Taeyeon or an IU for me, and I love those soloists. Those are some of the most prominent figures in the industry. IU is, you know, K-pop's darling, but J-Hope legit like has that ceiling when it comes from a creative aspect of being an artist. He ticks all of the boxes. J-Hope has quickly become one of my favorite soloists over the last year or so. I just absolutely love listening to his music and just seeing the raw passion behind him. It's very rare to find, you know, K-pop idols in the idol industry nowadays that like really express that real raw passion for making music and performing it. Like, you'll find an idol here or there that, like, you know, they like writing and producing their own stuff, but nowadays I just feel like there's not that sort of love for the music anymore. Do keep an eye out for him in the future in the industry, because I do really think that he's going to be the next great soloist.
girl or day. 내가 안 되면 맘대로 해 얼때 매듭 저격하는 사람 굿 얼때 동식 없이 욕구를 부를 때 얼때 성격을 무시해 얼때 부끄럼 없이 울고 싶다 go 얼때